Having looked at the forms and methods of decision making in groups, I now want us to turn our attention to another related area, and this is barriers to decision making in groups, as well as their possible remedies. As we noted, the decision making process in group is quite elaborate, and the methods also have some advantages and disadvantages. Any decision-making process and the methods used cannot fail to be faulted for one reason or the other. And this is probably what amounts to barriers to decision-making. So the discussion that we want to have now is focusing on some of the barriers that we are likely to face when we are making decisions. But more importantly, we want to look at how can those barriers be overcome. Welcome to our discussion. One of the barriers to group decision making is what we call groupthink. Groupthink is understood as a psychological phenomenon that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity results in irrational decisions. Groupthink is characterized by excessive optimism, dismissal of negative information, inability to critique consequences of actions, discouraging or rather discounting a rival's abilities to make effective responses, as well as the emergence of mind guards. Groupthink protects short-sighted and narrowly focused group norms, which prevent openness, creative problem-solving, decision-making, and even performance expansion. Loyalty to the group requires individuals to avoid raising controversial issues or alternative solutions, and they raise a loss of, or rather which leads to a loss of individual creativity, uniqueness, and independent thinking. Certain strategies can be employed to overcome groupthink, such as practicing impartiality, encouraging openness, requiring participation, and inviting outside opinions. We know for sure that in some groups, people who take the path of expressing an opinion which is different from the one held by the majority is either described as a mole, as a rebel, or sometimes as troubleshooters. Such descriptions are designed to discourage individuals who are part of the groups from disagreeing with members, especially a position that has been taken by majority members of the group. So because of this, it becomes quite difficult for individuals to think openly, to discuss things from an independent point of view, elaborately, and in a creative manner. The result of this is that the decisions that are arrived at by group is one that is supported by the majority, not necessarily the correct and effective decision that can address the problem at hand. So groupthink is a very, very significant barrier that is being witnessed in many groups. It is quite common, more so in political parties, where the position that is held by the leader of the party and those around him or her tends to take precedence, and any party member that holds contrary opinion is heavily rebuked and in the process completely discouraged from expressing his opinions, however good they may be. The other barrier to effective group decision making is what we call social loafing. Social loafing refers to the concept that people are prone to exert less effort when working collectively as part of a group compared to when undertaking an individual task. Social loafing is more common, or rather more evident, in tasks where the contribution of each group member is combined into a group outcome, which makes it difficult to identify the contribution of a single person. Social loafing mostly occurs when individual roles and responsibilities in the group are not clearly defined, which makes it difficult to track and perform tasks that requires individual efforts. Social loafing can lead to low productivity, burnout, especially among individuals that have taken the duty of shouldering the tasks that have been abandoned by their colleagues. It can also lead to occupational stress, conflicts, and even labor turnover. Social loafing may be prevented by clarifying each member's roles and responsibilities, as well as tracking and publicizing each member's accomplishments. So when you talk about social loafing, we simply mean the tendency by some group members to put less effort, especially in the tasks where group contribution matters. They do this with the full knowledge that it is difficult to track and quantify their actual contribution in the success of the group. And they know that whether if the group succeeds, they also share and take pride in the success of that group. And when the group fails, they also know that the blame will be shouldered by the entire group and not them as individuals. So group loafing is a barrier in the sense that it makes some members become lazy in terms of effort put, in terms of creative thinking, in terms of innovation, and in terms of bringing on board different perspectives that can sharpen and make the kind of decisions that groups arrive at becoming more effective. So it's an important barrier that groups need to look into and address. Otherwise, it has a potential, as we have noted, of leading to low productivity of the entire group, burnout, especially members who work hard, and also stress, even conflict sometimes, and sometimes the worst of which is labor turnover. The other barrier to group decision making is called framing bias. Framing bias occurs when people make a decision based on the way the information is presented as opposed to the facts themselves. It can take many forms, such as what we call value frame, auditory frame, and even visual frame, among others. Value frames are psychological strategies which are designed to make people believe that they are getting a better deal by attaching higher value to something or some item. For instance, some people believe that a product that has a higher price is of a higher quality, where sometimes it's the opposite. This can also occur in groups, especially where hiring of services or purchase of goods that are meant to be used in the group is concerned. Some members of the group might believe that a contractor that has quoted a higher price or a firm that has quoted a higher price in terms of provision of the services is the one that is bringing a better value to the organization. That is the one that is going to bring quality goods or quality services. And therefore, they are likely to settle for that because of a high price. but we know for sure that there are goods or services that are highly valued, but in terms of services or in terms of quality, it is quite the opposite. When you talk of auditory frame, it refers to a situation in which people opt for something or an idea based on the tone in which it is presented. Sometimes, when somebody emphasizes and assertively puts across his or her points, then it can persuade some groups that the point or the idea being expressed is the best that the group needs to adopt, when in actual sense, it might not be the case. There are also people who might have very good ideas, but they are poor communicators, and the process, they are therefore not able to articulate and assertively put across their opinions, thereby not winning the support of members. And on that basis, the ideas might be rejected or not considered, however good they may be, simply because they have not been assertively put across. Then we have what we call visual frames, which is a situation in which people adopt or reject something based on the color, the image, font, style, or font size, and even body language in which it is presented. I think this one has been much common, especially in organizations when they're doing hiring. Sometimes individuals are hired by groups based on their looks, so that people who look attractive, beautiful, handsome, well-dressed, and others might be accepted or might be considered for a position in the organization. Yet, in terms of content and delivery and competence, it might be the opposite. So that some individuals are rejected because of their presentation, the way they dress, the way they look, the way they have groomed themselves. Yet, in actual sense, they have a better content, a greater intellect, and stand a better chance of driving the agenda of the organization or the group better than other members who are well dressed. So, in terms of this, again, groups are likely to make decisions based on the presentation, the physical presentation, the color, the image, among others. Yet, the decisions they make might not actually be the one that best serves the purpose for which that decision is being made for. So, framing bias is also another important barrier that groups face when it comes to decision making. Factionalism is yet another barrier to group decision making. And a faction is a group of individuals that share a common purpose but differs in some respect to the rest of the entity. Factionalism, therefore, is a situation in which a group forms within a larger group, especially one with slightly different ideas from the main group. Factional politics typically revolve around personality, with a few individuals playing key roles and acting as a magnet for like-minded people, leading to the activities of the faction and acting as a prominent voice for the shared objectives of the faction. Factions advance a particular policy or policy agenda and might prevent the adoption of alternative policies and support given individuals to positions of power within the group. So when we talk of factions, it simply means a group not talking in a united and cohesive manner, so that within the same group there are divisions, and these divisions revolve around personalities, around individuals, and sometimes because of the fights for either control of agenda or control of the organization, it becomes quite difficult for groups to make good decisions. This is because any idea that originates from one faction may not be perceived or may not be considered based on its own merit, but rather due on the fact that it is presented by the other group. So it is not properly discussed, assessed, evaluated, and its usefulness or significance and even suitability in terms of addressing the issue that's at hand is not properly analyzed. It might be rejected simply because it comes from the other side or some might be accepted simply because it comes from a given group. When factions are there, it becomes difficult for members of any given faction to critique the voices or the opinion and perspectives of their members. And they are quick at dismissing any idea that comes from the opposing faction. So factionalism may not only lead to lack of progress in decision making, but if not controlled, can also tear the group apart and even lead to the disintegration of the group. The other barrier in group decision making is called bounded rationality. Bounded rationality is the notion that challenging complex issues that leaders cannot fully grasp makes them unable to be rational about the situation and are therefore incapable of understanding alternative views. Within learning organizations, for example, educators would like to believe that they can learn everything. However, at times there is no comprehension of a certain component of learning, thus they become a victim of bounded rationality. Bounded rationality occurs even when leaders have the cognitive ability to process all the relevant information, but they still make decisions without first having time to collect all the relevant data. It can lead to incorrect decisions being made without all the information or abandonment of an issue altogether, which lead to incomplete or wrong decisions. So sometimes the position that is held by the group leader, sometimes people interpret it as insubordination if another person were to give a contrary opinion. So we follow what the leader says, even when we believe that it might not be the correct path. This is because of what we call bounded rationality. In other words, we are bound by the thinking of the leader, even if such thinking may not be relevant, may not be competent, and may not be one that best addresses the issues that we have at hand. And this can be a significant barrier because then it is the only opinion of the leader that will be adopted from time to time. Whether it is correct, whether it is wrong, whether it is outdated, whether it is relevant, it is adopted because we have bounded rationality. The other barrier to group decision making is what we call escalation of commitment. Escalation of commitment refers to the tendency of decision makers to remain committed to poor decisions, even when doing so leads to negative outcomes. For instance, once a group commits to a decision, it may find it difficult to reevaluate that decision rationally. It's also not easy for decision makers to admit that they made poor decisions and the need to abandon them. It is important, however, to acknowledge that not all decisions are going to be good. And therefore, sometimes it is good to reevaluate and assess and change if certain decisions that were made in the past have been found not to have been the best. And it is important that such evaluation is done from time to time and group members remain open to new ideas, since doing so can help them in terms of developing or improving the decision that they made earlier. But we are saying that until that is done, it remains a big barrier to decision making because members of the group or as a group, sometimes we develop self-defense. We rarely acknowledge that we went wrong. It is a tendency of individuals to insist on the decisions they made, even when they have been faulted or when critics have found them not to be good. So because we want to remain committed to what we had decided earlier on, without changing it, it acts as a barrier because we want to continue pursuing and we want to continue standing our ground, even when the evidence finds it the suitability of our decisions as not being correct. So escalation of commitment is also a very, very significant barrier that groups face. Let's now look at some of the remedies that can be put in place to address some of the barriers that we have discussed above. The remedies that we have here may or may not be specific to any given barrier. Some might work in addressing certain barriers, others might not. So let's look at some of the remedies that have been proposed to barriers to effective group decision making. One of the remedies is about building a sense of belonging. And it says that group members are more likely to contribute effectively in decision making if they feel a sense of belonging. It is therefore the task of group leaders to take steps to build a culture of belongingness by giving a chance to all members during group meetings. Moreover, groups should organize social events to offer members opportunities to bond and also organize informal tasks that require the participation of all members. It's also important to ask members their opinion on issues under discussion, especially those that are quiet for a while. Members should also be encouraged to seek clarifications on issues that are not clear to them, even if the matter has been dispensed with. This is because the overall aim of building a sense of belongingness is to encourage good people to talk and to participate. And this one can help in overcoming or minimizing the barrier associated with social loafing and even sometimes group thinking. Because when people are encouraged to express their opinions, and there's assurance that even if the opinion do not go hand in hand with that which is expressed by a majority of members, it can still be tolerated and considered, then this can be an effective remedy against groupthink as well as social loafing. Sometimes social loafing is a product of the group culture. That is the way decision-making process is done. So that if people feel that when they make contribution, their contributions are never considered or acknowledged, then they may decide to say, let us be dormant, because even if we make contributions to decisions that are being made, it is rarely considered. Another remedy that can also be used to prevent or to overcome some of the barriers that we have highlighted above is the documentation or highlighting of individual achievements in groups. It should be the responsibility of group leadership to acknowledge the achievements of individual members, and it is essential for leaders to have keen interest on what roles individual members are playing in groups. Leaders should go ahead and point out special achievements by individual members as and when they are noticed. This will help discourage social loafing and free riding, which is associated with some group members, and can also be used as a means of boosting members' morale during discussions. Otherwise, if there is no recognition for individual efforts, then what will happen is that social loafing will persist, because people will say that even if I work hard, nobody recognizes. And those who are naturally lazy will say, even if I don't put no effort, again, nobody will notice, and the process I may not be punished for not doing as much as required of me. And again, those who work hard will say, I will not be rewarded or recognizing for the kind of effort that I put the group. Therefore, there is no need of putting a lot of effort, because even if you do, there is no acknowledgement, there is no recognition, and there is no reward. So I better give as much minimal as possible, so that my presence in the group is not felt in a significant way. The other remedy to barriers to group decision making is through the engagement of external experts. External experts may be engaged during group meetings and selected activities to help challenge the views and perception of group members on certain issues. Although experts can help groups make more informed decisions, the engagement should be done sparingly. This is because research has persistently found that making external experts part of the decision making can sway the team to adopt the opinions over those of group members. It is therefore important to invite experts to provide the opinion on a clearly defined topic and position them as informed outsiders in relation to the group. Otherwise, careful engagement of experts can help group overcome some barriers to group decision making, such as groupthink, boundary rationality, and even escalation of commitment. It should be noted here that sometimes somebody from outside can challenge the long-standing perceptions that members of the group have, or can provide an opinion that is contrary or rather which challenges the group leader, and in the process the group leader can see light or can see a different way of how the issue that they have held certain positions on is being seen by others, and through that they are likely to change their trajectory in terms of the way they see things, and in the process that can help in terms of advancing the discussions in the group and making the group more open to diverse opinions, so that boundary rationality, groupthink, and even escalation of commitment is challenged by the opinion that have been given by external experts. It is also important for group leaders or groups to embrace diversity, the means of overcoming certain barriers. It is important for groups to first understand the nature of issues for which a group is required to make decisions on. Research reveals that groups consisting of individuals with heterogeneous opinions and beliefs have a greater tendency towards balanced decision making. Groups therefore should embrace diversity when trying to complete complex tasks that require diverse skills as well as perspectives. However, homogeneous groups should be engaged when undertaking repetitive tasks or tasks that require convergent thinking in a structured environment. Otherwise, when complex, new, and innovative ideas are being discussed, it is important for groups to embrace diversity. Let groups recognize the fact that different people have different abilities, different opinions, different perspectives, and different standpoints on given issues. People also have different experiences. So by embracing all that diversity, it is easier for different members of the group to bring on board their experiences, their perspectives and their opinions, as well as even expertise on a given issue. And in doing so, it is possible for a group to come up with solutions to issues that are broad-based, other than those that are informed by narrow minds, which are largely orchestrated by groupthink, escalation of commitment, and even boundary rationality. There's need to broaden the base, the source of opinion, the diversity in terms of thinking and expertise, because doing so, will have a group that is more informed, more enlightened, and more interactive. And all those three processes have the potential of yielding quality decisions. Or remedy that has been used is what we call the use of what we call the devil advocates. A devil advocate is a person who expresses a contentious opinion in order to provoke debate or test the strength of the opposing arguments. Research has shown that empowering at least one person with the right to challenge the team decision-making process can lead to significant empowerment in decision-making, rather in the quality of decisions and outcomes. For larger groups with 7 or more members, 2 people can be appointed to serve as devil's advocate. And when that is done, it is possible that these people will challenge the positions that are held by people. It will provoke members to think deeply, to justify why they are taking certain positions and not others. And through this, it will help in improving the discussion and the atmosphere and the level of intellectual interaction within the group. So a devil advocate is an important person that can inject new thinking by challenging the positions that are held and by insisting that sufficient justification is provided when reaching on a given decision. This one can help in overcoming barriers associated with groupthink, social loafing, escalation of commitment, and even bounded rationality. Sometimes poor quality decisions come because there are no members in the group that provide critical reviews of the issues of the decisions that are made, that do not question individuals, do not demand that certain positions are supported by strong evidence based on data, based on empirical research, and others. It is important that all this is done to ensure that there is proper and vibrant discussions during when decisions are being made.